Okay, some announcements. Okay, today's breakfast is sponsored by Evelyn and Martin Pollock in honor of their good friends, Linda and David Heiser. Thanks for making
Good morning.
Morning, Wally.
tomorrow is Lunch and Learn.
Oh,
Lunch and Learn tomorrow.
how are you?
Okay, and next week, don't forget, who makes the best burger? Okay, make a reservation for that. Who makes the best burger? Whenever you're ready.
We lost a picture here. Mendy. No picture. Oh.
It's its own thing sometimes. I have no idea what's going on here. Wait, that's here. What does it show? I don't know. That's the, I don't think it's.
John? Can everybody hear me? I can't,
Absolutely.
and you can see me too?
Yep.
All right,
Okay.
good, because I can't see anybody. All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. The topic of bat mitzvah can be explored on many, many levels. What I'd like to do, as is our custom, is to analyze the halachic underpinnings of what we call bat mitzvah today. I think everybody agrees that the most important part of bar and bat mitzvah is the preparation of the young man or young woman to enter into Jewish adulthood in terms of responsibilities, in terms of mitzvos, and the hoopla and the parties, which are sometimes more bar than mitzvah, are totally inappropriate because that has nothing to do with the entrance of a child into the age of mitzvos. That being said, the whole notion of a bar and bat mitzvah celebration requires some attention. Traditionally, when a young man became 13, he was called to the Torah, which is a public event. So that by calling him to the Torah, by counting him in a minyan, it's a proclamation to the community that this fellow is now an adult Jewishly, and he can be counted on to fulfill the obligation of a minyan, get an aliyah, to lead the davening, and so forth. And in celebration of that milestone event, so it was customary to have some type of a mild celebration. It wasn't the party that we are accustomed to. They might have a little bit of a herring and kichel and maybe a little bit of schnapps, mazel tov, and that was it. Not the full-blown extravaganzas that you have today. And for hundreds, if not thousands of years, this same recognition of entrance into adulthood was never accorded to young girls, young women. So A, why not? It should have been. And B, when did it become common in more modern times? And what is the halachic basis, if in fact there is one, to what we call today the bat mitzvah celebration? And also the basic question is, why should there be, or why is there, if there is, any differentiation between the coming of age of boys and girls? If they're becoming adults Jewishly, then that should be recognized whether you're male or female. But it never was for a very, very long time. And we throw in another monkey wrench, so to speak, into the process. There is this concept that we are not to imitate non-Jewish ways. And in the Christian denominations, they have a communion celebration for girls when they reach puberty. So is it imitation of the non-Jewish custom of having a confirmation or a communion for girls to do the bat mitzvah celebration that has become so common? What impact does that have? There are a couple of fascinating sources that I want to go over with you, which I think are important to understand in terms of appreciating the halachic process. There's a Mishnah in Nida that says that if a girl of 12 years and a day takes an oath, or if a boy 13 years and a day takes an oath, then those oaths are valid, which means they're considered halachically as adults in terms of nedarim, but for other things as well. So that's one source indicating the cutoff age. There's nothing in the Torah itself that talks about bar mitzvah or adulthood for boys and girls. It's rabbinic. I mean, the mitzvahs are incumbent upon you from a biblical perspective, but the Mishnah says, nedarim, any oaths for a girl of 12 years of a day, for a boy of 13 years of a day, are valid. There's also another interesting Gemara in Yuma that says that a girl should begin fasting on Yom Kippur from the age of 12 and boys from the age of 13. Those are the two sources that indicate, at least, that there's a notion of when boys and girls attain their majority from a halachic perspective. Yeah. Nothing in Chumash.
Nothing at all.
No.
So this is all Torah Sheba'al Peh, but they have no way. It's not mentioned where they think it came.
Again, even if you take the word bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah means they are now obligated to do mitzvahs. They have reached their religious majority. Girls at 12, boys at 13.
But the thing with the Shiur is
That's the Gemara. But the Gemara establishes this as the cutoff date for religious majority.
they don't quote any source of any hint that there's
No. Now, there is another fascinating Gemara which brings us to a whole other approach. I think it's a beautiful approach. The famous Rabbi Yosef in the Gemara. Rabbi Yosef was blind. And a blind person is exempt from mitzvahs. The blind are exempt. Rabbi Yosef said, if anybody can prove to me that a blind person is obligated to do mitzvahs, I'm going to throw a great party for him. That person can prove it. And based on this particular discussion, it's more in Kedushin, we came to a fascinating conclusion, which if you think about it, makes a great deal of sense. And that is Godol Hamitsuva Viose Mimisha Eino Mitsuva Viose. It's greater for a person who is obligated to do mitzvos than if someone is not obligated and does a mitzvah. If you have an obligation, then you have to do it. And that's a greater reward than for doing something that you didn't have to do. And that's why Rabbi Yosef wanted to get reward for doing mitzvos. He didn't have to daven every day. He didn't have to keep kosher, keep Shabbos, but he did. But he wasn't obligated to. But he wanted to be obligated to do it because he was blind, he was exempt. So similarly, the Gemara, after a long discussion, comes to the conclusion that it is greater, it's more meritorious for somebody who is obligated to do mitzvos than someone who's not obligated and doesn't. Yeah. Not at all, if you think about it.
If somebody doesn't have to do something, does something for me, I feel more appreciative of somebody who's not so much.
You are granted. You appreciate if someone does you a favor. That's fine. But what about, for example, let's assume you have an old man in shul, okay? And his son comes to shul too. But the son isn't that careful about helping him, putting on his tefillin, helping him putting on his talis, helping him walk, helping him. He sits next to him, but he doesn't really, he's not helpful. Whereas people next to him who are not his children, who don't have an obligation, make sure he's sitting okay, make sure his talis is on, they take care to help put on his tefillin. The kid doesn't get that involved. Those people certainly are rewarded for helping out another individual, but the reward would have been greater if his son had done it. He has an obligation. He didn't do what he was supposed to do. We have mitzvos. We all have mitzvos to do. A person who may be exempt from certain mitzvos and does them does not get the same reward as those of us who are obligated to do mitzvahs. And that's what we're coming to, the whole notion of bar bat mitzvah. Yes.
Feel better about the person that helped me.
Yes.
Versus if my grandchild. Because I feel, look, not signing, I still feel better. Someone that's not obligated to help helps me. Makes me feel better.
You may think so, but there's nothing like the feeling of having a grandchild help you.
Oh, yeah, it's good too. But if you get an outside help, that's me.
Not as good. It's nice, but not as good. Yeah. Okay. You're raising a fascinating point, because those who are obligated to do something have the additional burden of the Yetzer Hara telling them not to do it. I don't want to get up early to go to shul, or I don't. It's true, but by overcoming that Yetzer Hara, you get a greater reward. It's true. Okay, now. Yeah.
What would be the impact? Why would anyone who's not Shiur step up to the plate? Right, they're good people, but it seems like they're basing everything on a field and what kind of reward you're going to get. So it's like basically someone who's not Shiur might say, well, why should I bother? What's in it for me?
Well, because there are people who are good people, and we acknowledge that. But it's not the same as if you are required to be a good person. That's not to say you want to be a nice person. You can't force. Yeah, but the point is, I wouldn't call it forcing somebody. But if you have an there's a difference. If you have an obligation to do something, I have an obligation to respect my parents. That's an obligation. Okay. If I don't do it, I'm violating a biblical command. Okay. My neighbor may not have that same obligation because my father is not his father. But if he helps my father, he certainly gets a reward, but not as great as if I would have helped him. There are many ways to do it. But these are obligations. Again, Godol HaMetzuva v'Osa Mimisha Eino Metzuva, which brings us to Bar and Bat Mitzvah. When a young man or a young woman is now required to do mitzvos, all right, we acknowledge that by saying now you're part of the Klal Yisrael, the adult community of Yisrael, and we acknowledge that with some type of public statement or celebration, but not the extravagant celebrations that it has come to be. I say, the notion of acknowledging a young man or a young woman's entrance into mitzvos was never intended to be a party which has nothing to do with Torah and mitzvos. It's just a party. It's just a party. Now, throughout history, again, given the fact in general, throughout history, women were always in the background. It's a fact of life we can't hide from. For a variety of reasons, women were never in positions of prominence. Exceptions here or there, but by and large, women were not in the forefront, whether it was because of issues of tznius, whether it was because women in general were kept in the background by societal pressures, whatever the reasons may have been, women were never public figures. Every so often, you have an individual who was an exceptionally accomplished businesswoman or even a queen. But by and large, women were in the background until the modern period, when they began to assert themselves, began more accepted in society. And this filtered down to the religious communities. In terms of the bat mitzvah being recognized as saying, now, even the bar mitzvah, by the way, you never had the parties that we have today. You may have had a kiddush in shul, may have had a luncheon maybe, but you never had, sometimes not even in shul. Rabbi Moshe was very opposed to that, but there was some type of celebration, but not a major blowout party. The first bat mitzvah in America as a bat mitzvah was Mordechai Kaplan's daughter in 1922. That was the first one. Mordechai Kaplan was the founder of the Reconstructionist movement in Judaism. And from that one time, it took a couple of decades more until it became more accepted and recognized in the Reform and in the conservative movement. And now, even within the Orthodox movement, you have the acceptance of a bat mitzvah recognition. What type of a party you have is a subject of a great deal of literature among the poskim, going back to the post-Holocaust period. Rav Moshe had a fascinating comment. Says, if I had the power, I would abolish bar mitzvah parties too. But there's a lot of discussion. The chief rabbi of Sephardic rabbi of Israel, Rabbi Yosef, wrote a tshuva, certainly encouraging, acknowledging girls' entrance into mitzvos. There are a number of poskim who felt that there was nothing wrong with it. The discussion centered around whether you should have it in shul or not in shul, and there lies a whole discussion by itself whether a shul is the appropriate place for this or not. Again, the minhag up until the 20th century was generally not to acknowledge bar mitzvahs or even bar mitzvahs in a major way. You had somebody got called to the Torah for the first time, so the father gave a little chaim and maybe a piece of herring and kichel, and that was it, mazel tov. You're now part of the minyan. When a girl became bat mitzvah, a father could give a kiddush in shul, according to some poskim. Chances are it was more of a home-based type of celebration, but it was a low-key type of thing. Today, you have a confluence of many things. You have the feminist movement, you have all kinds of situations where women are now achieving equality in many, many areas, including religion. And therefore, the bat mitzvah has assumed much more prominence than it has in the past. You have girls giving divrei Torah, which is fine, nothing wrong with that. But that also is based on something new. If you go back 150 years, girls didn't go to school to learn religion. They learned from their mother's bedside or next to their mother. They learned from their mothers how to become a Jewish woman. There were no schools for women. Yeah. Sarah Schneer in Poland said this is wrong. There should be a way for girls to learn Chumash, to learn halachos, and she wanted to start a school for girls. It became known eventually as the Beis Yaakov movement. And many rabbis were appalled. What? School for girls? Who ever heard of such nonsense? And then she was persistent. And she went to the Chafetz Chaim, and she went to the Gera Rebbe, and these two great Gedolim said, absolutely. If girls are making strides in many other areas, there's no reason why they shouldn't get a Torah education as well. And there was born the Beis Yaakov movement, which spread all over the world, very successful. So sometimes it takes very broad shoulders to change what was always being done, what was always being accepted. But even though, I remember, I may not be that old, and Howie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember seeing a bat mitzvah in my shul growing up. Do you?
Never.
No, we never saw. We grew up in the same shul. I never saw that growing up. Today, we have bat mitzvahs in our shul. Originally, when Rabbi Yudin was the Morda Asra, the girl did not give a Dvar Torah from the Bima. It was done either at the Suda or at the Kiddush or whatever. Now, the regime changed, and the girls can give a Dvar Torah from the Bima. It's evolutionary, perhaps. There's nothing wrong now that girls learn Torah, there's no reason why they can't give a Dvar Torah. But the celebration of the bat mitzvah, again, as Ramosha says with the bar mitzvah itself, it's a celebration of becoming able to do mitzvahs. And it's not a party for the sake of having a party, and sometimes that line gets blurred. People understand what they're celebrating. I don't know how many kids are excited about being counted in a million. Is that excited kid? I can now be counted in a million? Maybe. I can now get an aliyah? Well, that's exciting. But when you look at bar mitzvah parties and the bands and the dancing and all the other shtick that goes on, connecting that to the whole notion that we started out with, something gets lost in translation. So we have to keep in mind that it's a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah. And the mitzvah part should not become more diminished in favor of the bar part. Yeah.
Wally?
That happens a lot less frequently. It's the opinion of boss. Okay.
Pidyon Habats.
I heard a couple of them. How is that accepted or accepted?
This is the first I've heard of a Pidyon Habat. That's clearly not something that is halachic that I can think of.
It's not halachic, but is it any difference than
Well, let me refer to something else. I've heard of a Sholem Bat. In other words, the first Shabbos after a boy is born, you have a Sholem Zoch. What about a girl? Aren't you happy about the girl also? So Shalom Bat, and then people do that also. When my wife gave birth to twins, I had a Shalom Yolodim. We celebrated the birth of both children. Howie, you had a question.
Where, do you have a source for the 12 and 13-year ages?
Well, yes, the only thing that I mentioned, the two Gemaras. One Gemara about if a boy at the age of 13 and a girl age of 12 takes a neder,
Yeah, but what
neder
about,
is valid.
but where did the age 12, 13 come?
Good question.
That's why I asked it.
Where did the age of 12 and 13 come from? I guess it was, there's a discussion as to when they attained religious majority. It has something to do with physical majority as well. It's generally, I guess, they had to pick a demarcation point, and that's what they settled on. 12 for a girl, because girls mature faster than boys, and 13 for a boy. I guess, but when the rabbis picked a specific age, that sort of codified when mitzvahs kick in. And could it have been at 11 days? I don't know, but that's what they settled on.
Okay.
But it's definitely not biblical. It's rabbinic, more having to do, I guess, with the onset of puberty, I would imagine.
Okay.
Yes.
So I have a totally different angle of the question, since you chose the topic of bat mitzvah. I know that a lot of these girls are going to, yeshivas and stuff like that. They are learning davening for the full. And I've witnessed myself girls that have davened here, younger girls, who are only familiar with the Shemona Esrei, who were davening that on Shabbos morning. I mean, I can tell from what they were doing. And if it's a bat mitzvah, and you said focusing on the word mitzvah, girls that come to support a bat mitzvah girl or even the bat mitzvah girl, and they're not davening, so okay, they're having their Torah in shul. But to me, they may as well do it somewhere else. It's Shabbos, it's davening, they're just socializing, they come late. So where's the mitzvah there?
I agree.
I don't care how many hours, and it's very wonderful that they learn with whatever rabbis to their Torah, but it's like in one ear and out the other.
I couldn't agree with you more, and the problem is generic. It's not just a problem with girls coming to a bat mitzvah. Boys who come to a bar mitzvah do the same thing. It's a very broad problem. It has to do with the fact that davening is not taught properly in day schools. It's not. They don't teach what davening is all about. And it isn't just children. It's I mean, one of my biggest, the things that upset me the most, when I'm walking home from shul after Hashkamah, this is like 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, people are first walking to shul. That drives me crazy. Yeah. Well, the fathers are supposed to be proper role models.
The kids are running around. The fathers don't do anything about it.
Listen,
So that's how
when I was growing up, my father got me out of bed and said, "You're coming to shul, and we're going to be there on time."
What time are their fathers coming?
Yeah, okay, but
And you would never come with a cup of tea. Or
no,
coffee.
nonsense, walking through the street with a cup of, yeah. You're getting me started on a whole other sore point of what I like to call Orthodox light. I don't want to go there. It's a whole other parsha. Yes.
Well, do you think real girls 12 and 13 has the proper development to make a decision at that age that they want to That's what they do.
Well, again, if somebody at the age of 12 or 13 wants to convert, then it's up to the rabbis or the Beit Din who are supervising that particular conversion to make a determination if the person understands what it is they're getting into.
It's a rubber stamp, and they get up there, they make a speech, they kind of say something in their speech to kind of guy here. At that point, it's a rubber stamp. I don't think the child who's 12 or 13 has the ability to make that final decision.
I once wrote an article many, many, many years ago. I wanted to change the age of bar mitzvah to 18. And then at least we can keep them in school for a few years and teach them on a level that they can understand. But until the age of 12 or 13, they're children. And they're being taught like children. Which is, I mean, it's a whole educational system needs a lot of help. Yeah.
Husband can nullify his wife's no, and the father nullify his later. Those are.
It depends on the circumstance. Generally speaking, no, but sometimes yes. Nedarim are a very difficult topic. But the fact that a child at 12 or 13 can make it there, that is one of the sources that's brought down to show that they are now considered to be halachically adults. Anyhow, anybody has a grandchild getting bar mitzvah, I wish you a mazel tov. Have a great day, everybody.
Take care.
Have a great day, Rabbi. Thank you.
Okay, Janusz, be well.
Take care, Wally.
Bye-bye, Howard.
One of my great daughters, she's 12, she's about to be 12.
Yeah.
And then the whole trip for all 12-year-olds to go with their mother, Eretz Yisrael, rather than having to speak.
That makes more sense.
It just got canceled.
Oh, well, yeah, because of what's going on. Yeah.
No, I'm maybe they're afraid to.
Yeah, not so fast.
That's what
They should wait about mitzvah age.
The what? What?
Inflation.
But it's a gift. You're gonna link to. Yeah. All right. Okay.
It's a tough call.
Yishem and I Baruch Me'atah B'Yad Allah. Shushlam Shalom Tavach Hayinu. Yivlach Al Mechin Mazon Yosef Asher Baruch V'Chatava Adonai Yazon Yisakol. Amen. Hello. Amen.
About there was a recent violence